The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, and thank you for watching this video all about this great location that I was able to acquire for this weekend. So my name is Marcela Silva, and I'm a certified land banking specialist. I've been in the business for 11 years now. I personally own a ton of land and have helped hundreds of people acquire literally thousands of acres of land. So this is one of the many different locations that we have. This particular property is in the middle of what we are calling the greatest shift of wealth in the history of the world. And this is a statement coming directly from Valour, and Valour does not make statements unless they have years of experience, research, data analysis, and correlation behind that. I'm not going to go over all of those details today of what's making the greatest shift of wealth in the history of the world, but you guys will get an idea about it. It's also creating the largest land rush in California's history, and as well as a whole new sector of real estate for us, which we are calling energy real estate. It's basically almost like being able to own an oil well, but instead of oil, we're creating alternative energy, something that's much better for the environment. And this is all happening here in California, as well as throughout the US, as well as throughout the entire world. Nations are moving towards alternative energy because they're realizing we need to start cleaning up our act when it comes to having a healthy planet. So last September 2008, Governor Brown passed Senate Bill 100, which says by the year 2045, we need 100% of our electricity coming from alternative energy resources. Basically, within the next 26 years, we have to get to 100% clean energy, meaning that all buildings, homes here in California must get their energy from alternative energy resources. We also have an interim goal of 50% by the year 2026, which is a huge goal. Right now we're at about 33%. And just to reach that 33%, we have literally seen tens of thousands, actually hundreds of thousands of acres disappear, all for alternative energy. And not only that, but they're also looking at passing another bill called AB 1745. So Governor Brown is saying, or what he did say was, getting to 100% clean energy was not good enough. We need to be a net zero state, meaning that we're not creating any pollution. And the biggest polluter here in California, of course, is transportation. So Assembly Bill 1745 will address that, and that basically says by the year 2040, state law will require all new passenger vehicles sold in California to produce zero emissions. That is a really big goal, and that's really what's going to take this solar revolution to a whole new level, because not only will we be providing energy for California, but as well as the transportation sector. And that's going to require a tremendous amount of energy. We've kind of done the studies looking at the land side, and there's really not enough land to be able to provide that much energy, which is an issue California is going to have to deal with, but it's a great opportunity for us as land bankers, especially in this area where we're investing, known as the Antelope Valley. So in June of 2015, the Antelope Valley passed or did what's called this Town and Country Plan. And part of that plan, they discussed renewable energy. Since the demand for renewable energy in California is expected to dramatically increase in the near future, which it has, 3 years later, they ended up saying we need 100% energy coming from alternative energy resources. And it also goes on to say the Antelope Valley has one of the most abundant sunshine in the country. This, along with the availability of undeveloped open spaces, gives the Antelope Valley a lot of potential for solar energy development, as well as other forms of renewable energy sources. This is why we have been seeing miles upon miles of solar development coming into the Antelope Valley. It's also the perfect environment for alternative energy creation as well. You can see here, this is the U.S. solar radiation map. The darkest red is where you're going to find the most intense sun. A lot of this area out here, however, is government land and, like Death Valley and such. So you're not going to see massive utility scale solar panels out here in the government land. But if you notice where Lancaster and the Antelope Valley is located, it's just the perfect environment for this. Plus, they have a lot of flat, undeveloped spaces. And on top of that, the infrastructure is already in there. So billions of dollars has already been spent in the Antelope Valley on solar facilities as well as the infrastructure needed for it. So as a reminder, every property goes through our intense screening department or screening process through our research department. Out of 30 properties we look at, we purchase about one. That's how strict we are with the criteria every property must adhere to. So this particular property, 1.25 acres, 1.14 net. The reason for the net is because of the easement. This property is frontage a major road, which is a very positive thing for the land itself. And the location is Avenue F11, 90th Street West. So 90th Street West is the road that it's frontage. I'll show you on the plat map here shortly. Zoning is non-urban residential. Basically, it's unzoned. So because of the location, it could potentially get rezoned. It could get rezoned to residential. I'll show you more about that as well. But the current zoning is perfect for solar. Purchase price $35,000, works out to $28,000 per acre, 64 cents per square foot, for a total of 54,450 square feet. Here is the plat map, which lays out the details that I basically just told you. 1.25 acres, location F11 and 90th Street West. So the actual property is this little square right here. And how you find that square is through the legal description. That's the better address, if you will, for land. And you actually read it backwards. So this property is located in Los Angeles County. And if I was sitting in front of you, I'd have a really large map, which would show, which would be broken up into a giant grid. Along the x-axis is the ranges, and along the y-axis is the township. So range 13 west and township 8 north. If we followed those along, we would find section 32. Section 32 on that map would be this square right here. This is 1 square mile, just to give you an idea of the size of that. Once we're in section 32, we're now looking at the southwest quarter of that, which would bring us down to this bottom left-hand square. Then the northwest quarter inside of that, which would take us to these 4 squares. Then the southwest quarter, which would bring us to this square, which is 10 acre size. Then the northwest quarter of that, and then the south half. So that kind of whittles us down to the actual location of the property, which is this black square, and you can see its frontage, 90th Street West, which is paved, has utilities. I mean, to put that kind of infrastructure on your land, it would cost more than $35,000, the price of the property. So just the infrastructure there on the land alone is a major benefit. Obviously, not all of our land is frontage road, and not all of our land is frontage road that already is paved with infrastructure. Doesn't make those other properties bad. This just adds an extra bonus to the property. Also, if you notice, there's proposed solar right here to the south of it. That's just a little over a quarter mile away, and more proposed solar within half a mile this way. As we go through this, you'll see where all these solar projects are coming in. Also, Avenue G right here to the south, that's a major road which connects all the way to Freeway 14, which is the main road headed into Los Angeles. This road also connects to the major industrial corridor, which is about 2 miles to the east of this property. So we're going to look at the 3-mile radius of the property. As a reminder, all new developments coming in within 3 miles is going to increase the value by 10%, 2 miles 20%, and 1 mile 30% appreciation. So we have some new projects that are coming in that have not even been built yet, and that's going to increase the value of the land as they are developed. And again, those numbers that I just told you are coming from the Urban Land Institute. So this little star right here in the middle represents the basic location of the property. You have the 1 mile, 2 mile, and 3 mile radius. There are a lot of different things happening in this 3 mile radius. Just real quick, I mentioned the major industrial corridor in Lancaster, 2 miles, so that's this kind of gray square over here. A lot happening inside of that. I'm not going to get into those details today. Then you have housing directly to the north, known as Antelope Acres. This is a huge housing community. And then all of the yellow blocks that you see here are new solar projects coming in, as well as this blue one over here. It's also a solar project. And actually, if you go on Google Earth right now, you're not going to see all of the solar panels that have recently been installed. Google Earth is usually at least a year, if not longer, behind on their imaging. So it's really hard to base any decision off of Google Earth because it's old news. All right. So one of the things happening, actually let me show you this on the map. This is a Tehachapi Renewable Transmission Project done by Southern California Edison, a $3.5 billion project. They put in high tension power lines across the Antelope Valley for one reason, to safely produce power produced by wind and solar, to safely deliver power produced by wind and solar to population centers across Southern California. So if we go back to this map, these purple lines right here are the huge high tension power lines that were put in by Southern California Edison. And this is the, of course, important infrastructure needed for all of the green energy that's coming into this area. So the property is roughly located about right here. You have these high tension power lines just running across the Antelope Valley and into Los Angeles area. Also some other infrastructure that has been put in by other solar projects. They're putting in what are called gen-ties, so some underground electric lines that are tying in various different solar projects. And then again, 90th Street West, if you remember from the plat map, that also has electric lines running there. So as far as infrastructure goes, this is an excellent location. You have both roads as well as the energy lines. Couple of recent solar projects that were approved nearby. One of them is this 80-acre site, 424-acre site bounded by Avenue H and Avenue G, which is just to the south, and then 75th and 90th Street West. So basically about a little over a quarter mile to the south of the property. Here's another one along Avenue G and 110th Street West. So this one's about just a little less than 2 miles away. Another huge project that is 155 acres. So this particular project is basically puzzle piecing in right next to an existing project that has already been put in. And that existing project that's already been put in is this one that you can see here. Google Earth actually does show this one. This actually was supposed to originally be a housing community, but I think over 1,900 homes, but the developer of that community said, wow, look at what's happening with solar, and decided to just put solar on the land instead of housing. It's faster and a great moneymaker, obviously. So here's where the star basically represents where the property is located in relation to that project, which is already in there. So if you go on Google Earth, this is what you'll see, but what Google Earth won't show you is some of the newer projects that have either recently been built or have recently been approved. That's why a lot of times I tell people it's difficult to go even tour on your own or looking at Google Earth on your own. You're not going to understand what you're looking at when it comes to new projects that are coming in that won't be represented there. So several new projects coming in around this area. And then if you notice too, the housing community. I mean, that's literally like 10 acres to the north and less than a quarter mile to the north of the property. So here's another map showing a broader image of all of the surrounding solar projects. A lot of these solar projects are being used to power the city. I'll explain that more here shortly, but hundreds of acres of land are being consumed for these particular solar projects. So you're completely surrounded by solar here. You have housing to the north, and then over here to the east is the industrial corridor needed for various industrial uses. So it's kind of a donut hole of the possibilities that this particular property could become. This is the mayor of Lancaster several years ago. This is a very forward-thinking mayor, very intelligent as well. He says green energy is the key to Lancaster's growth. Our goal is to attract the largest and best companies to the Antelope Valley. We must be the center of alternative energy development in much the same way that the Silicon Valley became a hub for technology corporations. Very smart guy, and he actually took action on this. 3 years later, in 2016, they launched what's called Lancaster Choice Energy, where basically they became their own power company, providing cleaner power, more affordable rates, and they have complete control over this power. And they are creating their own energy on their own land there in Lancaster, which are those solar projects that I was showing you. Actually, that was just a small snapshot of the solar projects happening right there. And then selling it back to their own customers, business as well as residential. So let's see what that's doing for their budget. This is fiscal year 18 and 19. And according to their numbers, they have added about $40 million to the city coffers by becoming their own energy company. So just like the mayor said, this was the key to Lancaster's growth. Very smart guy. A lot of other cities throughout California, as well as the country, as well as the world, are looking at what Lancaster is doing and saying, oh my gosh, we need to do the same thing. The only problem with some of the cities in California is they don't have the land needed to create this alternative energy. So what they're doing is they are starting their own power companies, but they're having to buy the green energy directly from Lancaster. So Lancaster is not only selling it to their own city, they're selling it to other cities. It's absolutely genius. And if you're making 40 million, would you want to make 50 million? Of course. The city's going to want to continue making more. So how are they going to be able to do that? By acquiring more land and creating more energy on that land. And of course, this particular property is right in the middle of where all of this happens. So some of the cities that they're selling to, Palo Alto, they are adding renewable energy to their portfolio. And of course, the energy is coming from farms located in Lancaster. Another one is San Francisco Public Utilities Commission is getting their electricity from a solar park in Lancaster, California. So this is an older picture. This picture right here, this is one of the huge solar projects that is out there. The property we're talking about is like basically just right out here on this picture. Cupertino, also buying their energy from Lancaster. And this is a new energy field that is being built just to the south, I think less than half a mile to the south of this particular property. So it's pretty exciting to see how just the green energy shift is changing, how it's cities throughout the state are taking advantage of it. And a lot of that energy is being produced right here in the Antelope Valley, where we're investing in the land that they need. Powerful positions to be in for our investors. So this is an overview picture of the Antelope Valley coming from Google Earth. And actually, this one isn't even up to date with all of the new solar projects, but you can see all of the darker red represent solar projects. A lot of the ones up here are being used for powering the entirety of California. And then this is the city's power as well. And all of this that you see here, oh, and I also wanted to mention the pink up here, this is all wind energy. So the dark red is solar, pink is wind. All of the green that you see here, that is land that cannot be developed. It's protected land. Obviously, we wouldn't want to own that land. All of this land over here, they're saying we don't want solar over here because that's all meant for traditional types of development. They still need land for housing. The blue that you see here, this is all Edwards Air Force Base. That's government land. Then, of course, the green again, that's more protected land. And then you have the mountains surrounding it. So limited space available, and considering California's goals, there's just not enough land available to reach those goals. But we're right in the middle of it and taking advantage of it. So here's just a picture of one of the many solar projects out there. Again, we are calling this the solar revolution, also known as energy real estate. This is an important quote. As solar has come down in cost, it's opened up more expensive land closer to populations, like where this particular property is located. But they are competing with other uses for that land. One of those being residential development. So let's look at some of the other potential uses for this land. Major new infrastructure is going to be coming in within the 3 miles of this property. That is going to be the expansion of Highway 138, which connects Freeway 5 to Freeway 15, going from a 2-lane road to a 4 to 6-lane expressway. This will probably be the very last freeway ever built in Southern California, and it's going right through the Antelope Valley nearby this particular property. If we look at the City of Lancaster Master Plan of Streets and Highways, here's the basic location of the property. You remember we got 90th Street West right here, and then Avenue G just to the south. If we look at the legend, those are major arterial roads. What's a major arterial road? A road that has 3 lanes on each side. Right now, today, 90th Street West is a 2-lane road, so they have plans to expand it up to a 6-lane road. That kind of expansion doesn't happen for no reason. It happens because of the future need, growth, population, all of that here. And actually, just about a month ago, I was out there driving along 90th Street West specifically, and we were right in this area, and we were kind of in a traffic jam because there's a nearby school there already. So there's already quite a bit of traffic on this particular road. So with population growth, obviously we need housing. This comes from that town and country plan we were talking about earlier. The growth of the cities of Palmdale and Lancaster, as well as the increase in economic activity in the Antelope Valley as a whole, will spur demand for new housing and other construction projects. The Antelope Valley Area Plan identifies the appropriate areas for this residential growth to occur and promote a variety of different types of residential development. So again, we have a huge housing community, Antelope Acres, just to the north of this property. And then you have solar surrounding it. So this property could either go for solar or could become residential as well. It really just depends on what happens with the city, the developer, everything like that. But it's nice to have open to different opportunities. Housing is largely needed here in California. You may have been hearing about this in the news. California needs to build 3.5 million new homes by the year 2025. And last I checked, that's just around the corner. I mean, basically 5 years. We need 3.5 million new homes. Governor Newsom is saying we need minimum 500,000 new homes per year. And several past years, we've been only building at about 80,000 homes per year. So if you think you're seeing a lot of homes being built in our own backyard, imagine when they start really stepping it up to this. It's huge. And this area especially is going to need the housing. We are located inside of the most populated county in the entire country, 10.3 million people here. They are not expecting a lot of population growth in the LA metro area because they don't have the housing or the land for it. The population growth is going to the Antelope Valley because that's where the land is and affordable. And of course, that's where housing is going to be built. It's no surprise. Suburbs and exurbs account for over 90% of US metro population growth. I mean, that all these studies kind of add up. So this was information coming from the Hoffman Land Company. Hoffman Land Company, what they do is they acquire land and then they entitle it, preparing it for basically housing lots for the developer then to come and build the houses. Back in 2013, they were selling individual housing lots, and basically that star basically represents where the property is located, for $80,000 per housing lot, $80,000 per lot. In 2014, they bumped it up to $90,000 per lot. So less land available, value keeps increasing, right? You look at Santa Clarita, for example, $250,000 per lot because they don't have any land left, or they're running out of land very quickly here. So you can see what values do with housing lots as less land is available. So this was 2014, 5 years ago. They stopped putting out their numbers after that because I think they realized we were using that information against them. So, I mean, Avalor, we know this number is a lot higher, but I'm not even going to guesstimate what it is. We'll just keep it conservative, keep it at the $90,000 per lot price. On the current zoning of the property, you could fit 2 lots per acre, current zoning. If it got upzoned, you would look at 6.5 to 7 lots per acre at residential zoning. So at current zoning, you're looking at 180,000 for that size property. You as the landowner wouldn't get that entire 180,000 because you're not entitling the land. So we look at basically 25 to 50% of that number is what we could reasonably expect. And these are again 2014 numbers. So 45 to 90,000, already huge equity built into this particular location. LA County is expecting another 1 million new residents by 2035. I've seen other studies that are more than that. In either case, 16 years, adding 1 million new people just to that county, where are they all going to go? Where there is actual housing and affordable housing nonetheless, which is where Lancaster and Palmdale area. Mired in a severe housing shortage, LA County is likely to welcome an additional 1 million people, according to the Southern California Association of Governments. So a lot of different opportunities for this particular property. The main thing is, and why we're investing in land, it is a finite asset, and like any finite resource, land becomes more valuable when it's scarce. So again, here is the plat map of the property. Great location, especially considering it is frontage a major road, major arterial road that's already paved and has utilities in there, has new projects coming in all around it, and various different types of developments as well. So there's that 3-mile radius, and congratulations on taking advantage of this property. All right, thank you very much. Bye-bye.